Alright, welcome everyone to another session of Unity 3D game development. My name is Mike Trippy, aka Johnny Rush, and what we're going to do in this stream session is take a look at some of the things that we did not complete as far as um, the scripting goes with the new items we've added. Recently in the last stream we went through this new area that I have here on the screen. And I told you there were some patches um, of mushrooms that were spawning in that area, and the mushrooms are going to be used for a stamina boost. So, we had four variations. We had two red and two yellow, a large and a small of each. The red being the higher valued stamina boosts. 100% for the large red, 50% for the small red. 25% stamina boost for the large yellow, and then a 10% stamina boost for the small yellow. So what we're going to do is implement those and make sure that they actually work when you load those in a quick slot and use them. We want to make sure they work. So I'm going to show you how easy this is going to be to modify this code that we have or make this addition to it. Since we already have some functionality already written for the first aid kit, which was a consumable item, and in our we had a bottle of water, which is representing a armor boost or a defense boost. But we're going to utilize or modify that existing code to incorporate the stamina usage here by consuming a mushroom. So first thing we want to do is bring our script up, and it should be the player manager script is what we're looking for. And let me just do a quick check. I want to make sure I have the let's see, mushroom red large selected. Let's just make sure that we do in fact have. Yeah, I want to make sure we have category. We know it is consumable and it's spelled correctly. And okay, so that's good. It's a stackable item, which we have that going to action value. That's 100%. So just want to make sure that those values were set. What we're really needing to know is just the category and the action value, and that's it for this script change that we're going to make. So let's click on our scripts folder, which is under assets here. We go down to scripts right here, and we're going to find the player manager. This script is attached to our player that runs around. In addition to the third person scripts we have that control his movement, we have other various scripts that we've added. Let's click on our player real quick and quickly look at. Of course, we got the two Invector scripts, the basic controller and their input, but ones that I created from scratch and we've added here. We've got several actually. We got the UI player inventory manager script, and then we have our player manager script and our player waypoint navigation script, which I had started working on, and that's been put on hold for now. But anyways, we're going to modify the player manager script, and I'll try to keep this as short and concise as I can and direct. I noticed I went back and watched some of the videos I did previously, the streams, and I noticed I have a habit of in the middle of a sentence discussing something and then switching maybe gears to something else and then coming back maybe to it, but that interruption, I want to try to eliminate those and just focus on what we need to do. So first thing we're going to do is modify the mushrooms here to take a boost to the stamina when they're consumed. So we're going to click down the gear icon to go down to edit script. Of course, we can also get to it through just by going to scripts here, which is what I generally do unless I see it open on a game object I have already clicked on in the inspector. So we go to player manager, click on it once, and at the very top here we've got our open button. We click on that. So that opens up Visual Studio, which I already had loaded, so it came up pretty quick. and we've got our player manager script over here. And let's scroll down and look at what we have here. Now we already have a private float for stamina. This is something I put in back when we were doing the health and armor values and properties and setting up some functionality. We went ahead and wrote that code at that time. See, for stamina, we also have a public variable called stamina with a capital S, whereas this one here is underscore stamina, all lowercase. That's our internal variable that's used in this class to represent that value. But you know, on the external side of it, it's publicly accessed through this variable here, stamina. Now let's go down to start, make sure, yeah, we're initializing stamina to 100, which that obviously was working. We've had it working. And what we're looking for is the code. It's going to be in this update function here. If we scroll down here, we had some code here. Of course, this is the code when you hit left shift that will, if there's stamina available, it'll use it. And if the left shift is not being pressed, then if the stamina is less than 100, it ran this code to increase our stamina over time using time.delta time, and we added stamina. So we're going to use that similar function, add stamina, because essentially that's going to be the function we'll need. So let's just go ahead and copy that so we can have that ready to go. If we look down here, okay, this is where we have our checks for the hotkeys we're pressing. You know, alpha 1 is our alphanumeric, the number 1 that's on the alphanumeric keyboard as opposed to the number 1 that's on the keypad. So alpha 1 is what's the constant that's been set up for this key binding here. Alpha 2, of course, is primary, secondary. But what we're interested in is 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's more than likely where our mushrooms could reside, in one of those quick slots in 3, 4, 5, or 6. And you see it, they all call the same function. Use quick slot item, and it's calling in a value, which these are going to be fixed, and those are set. So we're not going to need to modify this, but what we're going to do is look at this function, use quick slot item, and see what we need to do to modify that. So if we keep scrolling down here, we got our attach right hand prop. We're not going to fool with that. There it is right here. Use private void, use quick QS item, pass in the index. So now we want to look. We had this switch statement in here, which basically is getting the inventory item that's currently at the index value that's passed in. It looks at the category, and then it passes it down through the switch statement, which has case statements in it, which basically the way the case is working again, as a refresher, it evaluates the value that's being passed in here, which is in this case is this category value. And it does just basically a string comparison, essentially. And so if the item that's being passed in has a category of consumable, then we're going to execute some code in here. If it's an attachment, we'll do that. 1, attachment 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. Weapon, primary, and secondary, which we're not doing anything in those because they kind of have actually weapon, primary weapon, and secondary weapon. These two here really probably don't need to be in here at all. As well as these as well, but I left them in there just in case we needed to do anything special with that. But so these items here are never going to be in. Well, actually, they could be in quick slots 3, 4, 5, and 6, but they're really not going to be used there. They can be stored there, like from picking them up. But in order to essentially use an attachment, it has to be moved to the proper attachment slot. So same with the weapons, the primary and secondary. You can't load a gun from slot 3, 4, 5, or 6. You have to pre-equip those in the proper slots, which there's a primary and secondary weapon slot. So, like I said, this probably really isn't needed. But anyways, we'll leave it there for now. So let's look at what we have here. Under consumable, we have another switch statement, which is nested inside our outer switch statement here. And so inside this switch block here, this is where we, after we've determined its consumable category, then we're now doing a a check on the item name. And that's where we're doing our check. Okay, is it first aid? If it is, we do our code for the checking the health. If it's less than 100, then we do these lines of code that, get the value for the health item, and then we reduce the stack count for that item. And the last part here, actually we're deleting the item. What we're doing a check though to make sure the stack count is less than or equal to 0. So we're going to do something very similar to that. So what we're going to do is modify this code. We're going to add underneath this case bottle water. Let's go ahead and hit enter to make a few lines there. And we're going to hit backspace. I want to get lined up under these two cases here that are indented here. And so we're going to do a new case statement here. And the keyword that we're checking for is going to be, well, first we'll start with mushroom red. We're going to do them from the largest to the smallest. So the highest value percentage one to the lowest. So mushroom red, large. Put a colon. And we're going to say used for stamina boost. Okay, and the reason it's got the red line is because you always have to end a case item or a case statement there. You'll have some code, either a single line or a block of code, and it has to end with a break and a semicolon. So I usually put that in right away so I don't forget it. And so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do Control V just to paste in what we copied before, that add stamina. And then I'm going to comment it out just so we have it there for reference. But let me copy this here now. We're going to make 3 copies of this because we have 3 variations of the mushroom. So each is going to do a different value. So we'll do mushroom red small. Let's modify that to small. And then this one here is going to be the yellow large. And then of course we'll have yellow small. Alright, so let's go into the large first, and we'll do this one. So we're going to have an if statement that's going to check the current value of the stamina, and if it's less than 100, then we will go ahead and apply or use that item. Again, the reason we have that check is we don't want to just have the player wasting items if they're already 100% maxed out on stamina. Now, if they use a large and they don't necessarily need 100%, they only have, it's up to the user, the player, to select the right mushroom that they want to use to apply that. We're not going to hold a portion of the the mushrooms usage to apply it later. This is a one-shot use. If you use it, it's gone. The item's gone. So obviously, if you have a 10% reduction of stamina as you're running, if you have a bunch of smalls on you, yellow small, you probably want to hit those and keep increasing your stamina by 10%, and use those. If you're really low and all you have is large, well, you want to probably, well, if you have only have large, you would obviously wait until your stamina is closer toward the bottom of your feet, in our little icon, our UI icon that we have to represent that, before you would actually use it, so you get the maximum usage out of that item. So again, that's going to be up to the player on when they're going to hit to use that item. All we're going to do is write the code that will use that item. If they're less than 100, we'll just use that item and apply it. So we're going to do an if statement here. If, and we're going to say stamina is less than 100. And again, we're kind of hard coding these values 100. We don't actually have what we call a max value for stamina or max value for armor and a max value for health. Later on, we are going to modify those so that as the player ranks up, they will get a health, armor, and a stamina boost. As they rank up, so it'll increase. So we don't want to have hard-coded values. That we're going to have to store that maximum value in the player manager. And that may be something we'll go ahead and, we might even go ahead and modify the code here after we get done to at least accommodate a variable that's used instead of a hard-coded number. We may not actually apply, you know, how much health or armor or stamina, you know, what the maximum will be increased to at each rank up. We'll determine that later, but we'll at least maybe look at that depending on how quickly we can do this mushroom stuff. So again, without getting sidetracked, let's so we check the stamina. Is it less than 100? If it is, then we're going to use the function that we wrote before called add stamina. Very simple. We already had them written all very similar. And so if we hit the parenthesis, you look here, the IntelliSense is coming up through Visual Studio, and it's showing that we need to pass in a parameter that's going to be the stamina amount, and it's a float value. So so that's what we'll need to pass in there. We're going to add stamina. And we're going to just leave that, you know, giving us an error there. And essentially, we can copy from the armor side. These last two lines of code that are under here are pretty much the same here. So we'll later change that because there is a lot of duplication of code, and we want to eliminate that. A better way to do this, since especially we're going to be doing this for really for all these items here, for this, let's say for stamina, where we increase the stamina, whether they're using the small, red, large, or whatever, we could have nested them all under a single case statement and just pass in all four of these. Well, when I say pass them in, you could have them all on the same line. Case mushroom red large, in print, you know, in quotes, comma, you know, mushroom red small, comma, mushroom yellow large, comma, mushroom yellow small. And then we could have a, you know, basically just, you know, utilize that item that's in there, and then we could have did it that way, actually. You know what, we might even modify it that way. Let's write it out for this one. I think we might. That would simplify a lot of duplication of code here. So essentially that's going to be it, but we need to pass in this add stamina now. We need to pass in a value. If we look at the way we did it here, we essentially took we had the player inventory game object. We had a reference to that was again, it was, I'm not going to scroll all the way up, but we have a reference that was already gathered in the start function, and we have this function called getPlayerItems, and we know the index value of the item that we're trying to get because that's being passed into this function here, right here, index. And so we can directly access then that current item's properties through the item data object we have here, and then there's certain properties like action value. That's the one we're going to want, actually. So essentially all this, I mean, again, we could copy all this. This is, look at the way this is set up. A lot of this is the same. And so we'll go back and like I said, we'll optimize this code later. But for now, I'm just trying to show you how easily this can be done. Because action value. Now, actually with this action value, we're wanting to do a percentage boost. So applying that number directly will work in this case only because of the fact that our stamina max is 100, which is the equivalent of, you know, that's the maximum 100%. When you're looking at that, it's all the same. So by us just passing this value like this, it works perfectly fine. But so we don't have any problems later on when we decide to modify these hard-coded values we have here for, you know, the 100 that's here for stamina and the 100 here. I want to get this done right here, like to calculate a percentage increase. So what it will be is a percentage increase of the maximum amount, what it could be. So, for example, the action value here, this is, like I said, it's a represented percentage. So the way we would calculate that, again, this is a whole number, 100. So to convert that to a percentage, we're going to need to divide it by 100. So we'll divide that by 100. That'll get us a percentage there. And then we want to multiply that result by the maximum stamina value. Which in this case happens to be 100. Again, we're using hard-coded values. I mean, it almost seems senseless. So I really think that we're going to have to go in and you know, readjust this and create some properties here very soon. So before we cause this confusion here, let's just leave it at that. Now, since the action value is the property we're going to use, and it's going to be the same for all these, well, it really don't matter if we do it separate for these mushrooms or put them all in the same thing, because the reason we can put them all together here is because they're all affecting stamina. We're going to be calling the same function, add stamina. If we were calling a different function like add stamina, you know, 1, and maybe we had a function called add stamina 1, add stamina 2, add stamina 3, and 4. Each of those would take different values, like the 100%, 50, 25, and 10 that represents these, and apply it. Then we would have to do it separate. But because we wrote our function in such a way that we pass in the value, and then it uses that value to increase the stamina by that amount, then you know we can actually use the same function in all 4 of these. And rather than duplicate this code, because essentially it would be the same, I can copy this and paste it down there, it will work. Because the only difference is whatever item happens to be here, whether it be a large red mushroom or small or whatever, it's that action value that it pulls in is going to be what the actual value is, the percentage. So, and as we pick up the items and store them in this particular index slot, we're saving all that information. Excuse me. So for now, what I'm going to do, we're going to just copy these right here. Control C. Do a comma. Like I said, this is the way you do multiple items that are going to call the same code. Why is it complaining? I might have the wrong character here. Let's see. Expected. Saying it expected that, but I don't know if that's right either. Let me just look this up. It's been a while actually since I put multiple items on a case statement. So what I'm going to do is, bear with me 1 second. What I'm doing is just typing in Google search. Multiple items in case switch state. C#. I want to make sure it's for C# because it may vary. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Now I remember. Okay. Yeah, the way this works, you can only put 1 item for each case line, just 1. But if you want to do like multiple ones, essentially you could do this. Let's drop it in there. So you would just because the way the code, it checks the label and then it just drops through and does all the code until it encounters a break. So we would just put all these in here. So we can, like I said, we can get rid of this, get rid of those, get rid of those. And we're going to just copy in these right here. And so for any of those, basically, we're going to let it do this code right here, this if statement, and then it'll break out. So if none of these match, it won't drop down to any of this. It'll bypass that statement. So that's essentially what we have here. So let's go ahead and test this. Well, before we do that, before we actually test that, let's go ahead and we talked about, since that was a quick fix. Like I said, that was quick. Let's go ahead and address this hard-coded value stuff. I don't really like using hard-coded values. I never did, and I never, you know, in any development I did in the past, I tried to stay away from those, especially with a number that could change. You know, if it was going to be a constant, well, there's better ways to do that, like using the const keyword and defining it somewhere else with a human-readable word that you can just plug in instead of a value. So let's go. What we need to do is go to our top of the script here. And yeah, see, we have health, armor, stamina. We have all that. That's all fine and dandy. And so what we want to do, we're going to insert in here. Tell you what, I don't really like to bust up code like that. I like to keep adding underneath so I kind of know the order of when I was potentially basically adding things. So just put a thing here, a little note, added by, and I always put my initials. If you're working on a team, you have multiple programmers, it's a good idea that they all document code. So, and I'll put the date. Today is June 14th, 6/14/2018. All right, so we're going to do private float max health, and then we'll do private float max armor, private float max stamina. Okay, so we have 3 variables for that. And I'd like to do the same thing that we did before. We'll create a quick action. Do that. Quick action. And use property. And same with that one. Quick action. Okay, what Visual Studio does, if we scroll down here, you'll see at the bottom of our list here, it's added our max health, or max armor, max stamina. Now, these are not going to be set by any external function, so we really don't need the set portion. So we can comment that out. Just want to be able to read those values, and having the get there is giving it the read access to read that value and use it somewhere else if we need to display it somewhere. Alright, and so down here, let's just add in our max health. I'm going to say it's just equal to health. Whatever we start our health at, the max health initially starts at that value. Same with, we're going to do the same thing with our armor. Max stamina. Okay. So these were also added by MJT on 06/14/2018. Alright, so we have that in start. Now let's look at the stamina function, because that's essentially where we're going to need to modify some stuff. We also want to, real quick here, we're going to change, okay, this value right here. If it's less than max stamina is what we want to put here. So we're no longer going to use a hard-coded value. Over there, that's one spot we need to change. Now let's look at, there are other areas as well. Okay, down here, this is where we want to change that to max health. Max armor. Got to make sure we use the correct one. And this will be max stamina. Okay, so by doing that, now we're no longer hard-coded. And if we, in the rank up code we have, you know, if we start adjusting the max stamina values, then, you know, we're good to go. We don't have to come back and change anything here because we're not using hard-coded values. Now, with that said, now we can calculate our percentage. This is going to make more sense doing it this way. So we want to take this float value, the stamina. We're taking the float, which is going to be a percentage. Add stamina. We're going to take, for the 100%, obviously it does everything. So, and in that case, we could actually do something special for that one, but we're going to do something universal here. We're going to take the action value here for the mushroom, whatever it might be, 100, 50, 25, or 10. We're going to divide that value by 100, which converts it to a percentage, a decimal. So like 100 would be 1. The 50 divided by 100 would be 0.5. 25 divided by 100 is 0.25, and then 10 divided by 100 is 0.10. And then we take that percentage and we multiply that by the max stamina value, which is the cap, the maximum you can have. And so in the case of the 100%, well, 100 divided by 100 is 1. 1 times max stamina is essentially max stamina, whatever that value is. So if it starts at 100, it adds 100. If the action value is 50, divide that by 100, it's 0.5. 0.5 times max stamina. If max stamina is currently at 100, which is what we start at, well, times 0.5 is half of that. That's 50. So it'll add a value of 50 to it, and so forth. So same with the 25 and the 10. It does an appropriate value calculated out. So if our max stamina during rank up, when we get that code written where it, let's say it increases every time you rank up, you get a, say, a 10% increase on your values, like your health, your stamina, and your armor get increased by 10%. For, let's say we do them all the same. And so max stamina goes from 100 to 110 the first time 10% is added. So you know, if this code was being executed and max stamina was on 110, again, let's work through a couple numbers here. If we take an action value, let's say you eat a large red mushroom, which is 100%, well, 100 divided by 100 is 1. 1 times max stamina, which is 110, adds 110. So that'll always work. Same with the, now the 50% action value divided by 100 gives you 0.5. 0.5 times max stamina of 110 is 55. So we look at, you can just take times 0.5. That gives a stamina increase of 55 points, so which is half of the max stamina value. And so if you were currently at 25, for example, and it added 55, well, you'd be, you know, at a total of 80, you know, 80 hit points, or we're going to call it stamina points, out of 110. So, it'll calculate outright, and same with the 25 and the 10. So this way we've got something that will calculate correctly. Now, with our armor, these were in fact just direct numbers that were being added. We weren't calculating a percentage. So we can use them just the way they are. We're just adding basically a hard value, action value, whatever that is, to the existing protection level or armor level, and same with the health. When we call the heal function here, we're passing in just the action value. It's going to add it to it. So those are fine the way they are. If we wanted to implement them another way and say that the values that we were put in there represented a percentage increase, like we're doing with stamina, well, then we would have to do something like this here. Just really, essentially just append this part here, except for max stamina, it would be max armor here and max health. And for now, we're not going to do that because we did implement those as hard values. Like I said, just we can still change them if we want, because this is we're defining how this program works. So as long as we keep it straight in our head, that's what it's going to do. And if you get to the point where you're releasing a game and you're putting together your documentation, well, you want to make sure you're clear about how these values are used in the program to boost health or armor or stamina, for example, so your players are aware how that works, and you don't get players that are frustrated when they think it's going to do a percentage boost and you're doing a hard value, and so it's not the same. It essentially is the same if the max values always stay at 100, because it won't make a difference. But when you start doing rank ups where you're increasing the max level, and so 15% of, let's say someone got their health maxed out to 500, let's say, instead of 100, and they're taking an item that's supposed to do 15% of 500, that's a whole lot of different number than 15% of 100, or just applying, it'd be 15 on 100, or 75 if it's a percentage of 500. But if we're adding the value, which is what we're doing, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to stick with that. So for those, we're going to leave them the way they are. We may change them later, but I did just want to show how this here, we're going to say, let's put a comment here. Will you just delete that here and put stamina action value is a percentage, PERC, can I spell? Percentage boost of the current max, we'll just say max stamina value. So I'm just making a note there, just so it's there, so that we got a clear indication that that's what we're trying to do. So now let's do a quick test now, and I just want to make sure that the stuff is working. Let's make sure we're spawning in area B here. Let's look at I'm going to expand the terrain and the player spawns. Make sure player, is it B that's selected or not? What I'm checking for is, oops, as long as that's checked there. Spawn player is checked when I click on player spawn B. So that's where we're spawning. So let's go ahead and run this real quick here. Alright, so here we are. Let me get over here a second. Bear with me 1 second. I'm actually bringing up my chat here, so before I... I guess I'm not signed in. I thought I was. Bear with me 1 second. And I apologize for the, you might be able to hear a dryer or washing machine kicking on and off in the background. Okay, so I have my chat up. I just wanted to make sure I had that pulled up in case we have viewers that are typing some information. Alright, so if you typed me a message and I missed it, please retype it. I didn't see any of the chat prior to this moment, so okay, so let's get back over here. Let's click there. What we're going to do is kind of just jog through here. Just wait until that goblin. I don't really want to fight him. We're just going to run through and pick up some random mushrooms here. So it looks like we've got, yeah, some of each kind picked up. We've got plenty there. Okay, so let's just run out of the area here. This will be a good test too because our stamina is just about out. So in slot 5 I have that's the large mushroom. So if I hit 5, well, I thought it was large. Let's hit 6. Okay. It looked to me like 5 was actually larger, but it's actually shorter. I apologize. I ran into an area that's playing some music. Just wanted to keep moving. So it seems to work, and then the it's at number 3 here. Okay, so 3 is the 25% boost. No, the one that's in slot 4, I have 4 of those. Those are going to be at 10%. So when we get to about the knees, where it should be at 25, we should just see a small little increase, which we did. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it took me 4 hits to use them, and it brought us up, you know, while we were running about half, you know, 25-30% more while I was using it. So now, number 6 is our full stamina. I'm going to wait till he slows down. I'll hit it 1 time. I'm going to continue to hold so we make sure. Now we're at 0. I'm going to hit number 6 1 time. You'll see it go to 100%. Boom. So we know that's working. Now I have to let go of the button and the shift and hit it again and start using that stamina. We can work out a fix for that. Apparently it's not checking the stamina to see if it's increased while you're holding it down. Once it goes down to 0. Slows you down, but it never checks again, because that's checked on when it's clicked down, when you click down in the down mode. So let's hit number 5. That should be at 50%. We should see it go to his waist, which it did. Let's hit it again. Okay, so yeah, 2 of them. So it's working. And 3 is a 25%. We should be able to hit 1 and just about fill up. Yeah, so that's it. So that was the easy fix to implement that, to get those working. You know, once you learn a little bit of the scripting and you write it in such a way that you have reusable code, you can see how easy it is to modify and implement things that are similar, you know, and without having what we call spaghetti code, you know, which is code that's just like going on, it's just jumping all over the place and hard to follow, you want to have structured code, you want to have code that's reusable, and it's easy to read. That's, you know, one of the principles of object-oriented programming is writing reusable classes, classes with functionality that can be reused by creating objects and that kind of thing. So, anyways, so that's that. That did work. There was something else I wanted to modify while we had time, because I don't think that we've actually been, well, we've been running about 46 minutes now on the stream. And we could end it here, have a nice short stream. But I think I'm going to see if there's something else we can modify and kind of get close to an hour on our stream time here. So let's end this right here. And let's go ahead and let's make the changes to the rank up that we were talking about. Let's do, when you rank up a level, let's give an increase. And it's going to be like we kind of did with the rank system, where when you're ranking up, it's the next rank up is a percentage higher than the previous, and we're going to do something similar to that, but the percentage will be different. Like I said, it'll be a small amount. It'll just be like 10%. So let's look at the script for that. That's going to be back in our player manager. So we can go to Visual Studio. And let's look at, okay, the add XP. That's how it's ranking us up. And so when we rank up, you know, we're calculating the next rank by this little function here using the mathf class, and it has a function in it called floor to int, which basically takes the a floating point value, but it converts it to an integer, like a whole number, no decimal fraction or any of that, and the floor just means that it drops off the fractional part. Instead of rounding up, it rounds down, and just drops it off. So we're going to do something similar, and we did a 25 by multiplying the next rank value by 1.25. That essentially will increase it by itself plus 25%. So we're going to do something similar to that for the max values we have here. So we're going to say we're going to increase them all by 10%. So we'll do max max health equals mathf dot floor to int, same thing. And the reason we have this float keyword in parentheses before our variable names is the variable name next rank and of course max health. Actually, I think our max health and all those we changed to floats. We can check. Originally they were ints, and so when you're multiplying mixed values, like an int and a float, sometimes you have to you do what's called an inline conversion by putting that modifier before it, the word float before that. And what that does convert, for example, 1 would be converted in memory sort of to be represented as like 1.00, like something with a fractional portion. And so it's in the same format as the 1.25, which is also a float that's multiplied by, and so you're multiplying two like numbers, for example, that are represented, you know, in a certain format in memory. So sometimes you need to do that. You'll get errors where the functions will not work unless you explicitly do what's called, it's really a typecasting. That's the proper word I was looking for before. You're typecasting the variable next rank to a float. So we're going to do that similar thing like to max health. We're going to times that by, let's get this written in, and there's something I want to check. Whoops. So that's max health, just like that. We're going to do similar. I'm going to copy that twice and we'll modify this. This will be max armor. This will be max stamina. I'll make sure we change it here too so we're increasing the correct ones. So we'll get a 10% increase on all those properties there. Let's say modified by MGT. I try to document most of that. Like I said, I've mentioned this before. Sometimes I'll do some code or change some code and add things and then it don't work. And I want to kind of go back to what I had. And I didn't do a backup before I made like these two, I consider these minor changes, you know. And so I'm not going to do a full backup that takes a while just to make, you know, 10 or 15 minutes worth of changes. But anyway, so I'll comment the code with this date and time to not only let me know when it was changed, but also, you know, I could do a search in Visual Studio here and through the entire solution, project solution, and find anything on a certain date with that date. I'll look for that date, for example, and it'll show me every line of code or every file that has that date in it and bring me to that line. And so I'll see where my modifications are at or additions. So that's what we'll do. That's how we're going to increase. When the player ranks up, they'll get an increase on health, armor, and stamina. So let's, again, we'll save this. I'm going to pop back to Unity. Let's clear that. Let's wait till it compiles. We'll get 3 yellow warnings there. I'm just going to wait a second here. Okay, there's our warning. So we can run this. And probably won't have, well, we might be able to find some first aid kits in these huts here. Or in some blue bottles. We want some of those so we can test out the health increase and the stamina. We also need to find a pistol because we're going to need to shoot and kill the goblin in order to rank up and get experience. We need to actually kill some enemies. So let's do that here. We're going to play a little bit. So let's see what our time's at. I don't want to keep this too much longer. Okay, so we've been 54 minutes. I'm showing we got about another 6 minutes here. So that'll kind of be perfect. Hopefully we made the change right. Everything's working. And that's... just going to pick up some of these random mushrooms. Well, we're getting quite a bit of those. So anyways, you want to be on the lookout for a, like I said, a pistol, first aid kit. This mouse is so sensitive, and especially when my frame rate is freaking out here. I'm gonna have to get inside there to get it. It'll probably despawn before I can get it. Yeah, let's do this. I tell you what, there's more. I don't even have a gun yet, so. Alright, so we set our, for the armor, yeah, we're going to see if we can increase that once we rank up. We're almost out of stamina. So this number 6 should be our... Yeah, originally I said I was not going to implement any kind of thing like this, but I decided to. Just because there were instances where I ran out of stamina and I needed to keep running. And of course I have it set right now where I can't die even if my health goes down, but once that's toggled, and I do die when my health is gone, it'd be nice to have that stamina to save ourselves. Alright, so we'll hit number 4 a couple times. There we go. Alright, so let's run in here real quick. We'll find... We need to find a pistol, and then we'll pick up any first aids and the armor increase boosts the basically the blue bottled water. Health. That one. If you see a pistol, let me know. I'm looking here. I don't see one. That's another reason. There's one. Why I want to take those mushrooms out of here, because there's too many of them spawning in this area. Alright, so we've got those. Let's put our health here. These here. We'll save our red ones and we'll just use our yellow ones. Got an extra gun that we don't need. I'm deleting those other items. Okay. Alright, so let's shoot a few tigers here to get a rank up. Bam, man. My aim was so off, I was missing. Alright, that's 25. About halfway. Alright, so we're at level 1. We ranked up, so we should have... Oh. Kill a few more of these. Now the way I'll know that if this is working right or not is, like I said, our health and our armor are just their values that are applied, not percentages. So the first aid kit does 100, increase of 100, I believe is what it was set for. So it would fill up your heart symbol. If we did in fact get increased from 100 to 110 on the health, when I hit number 3 right now, it shouldn't fill it all the way up. It'll be close, but not all the way up. And it did. I'm saying 100. They could have been. I think they were 50%, not 100. So let's hit 2 then. Filled it up. So see the stamina. This was 20%. I need to check these. It's been a while since I looked at the values. It's like 20%. It took 5 to actually increase the armor. So 2, 3, 4 filled it up. So let's see what we have here. Something just doesn't seem right to me. First of all, let's check our master inventory. And let's go to our first aid. Okay, so it was 50. That's fine. And the bottled water was 25. So 4 of them would fill it. But I guess I wanted to see... Let's see how we're applying those in the player manager. Okay. Health, float, heal amount, underscore health. Okay, that's why. We had this code in here that was making sure the health didn't go over the value of 100, because initially we had it set to 100. But see, now we have this max value that we have to check instead of 100. So this is another change we need to make here. So this is going to be max health. Then we'll just set it to max health. Essentially what that's doing is, for example, if your health is at 80, and you rank up to level 1, which brings your health to 110 max, but you're at 80, and you take a first aid kit, which gives you 50 health points. Well, 80 plus 50 is 130. That exceeds the maximum value. So that's what that check is for. It just literally sets it to the maximum instead of letting you go over that, because you can't. You're not at that level that would allow anything more than the max. So we need to do the same with the armor, except it's not going to be under the take damage. It'll be under the add protection. So we're going to do max armor, same thing. And on the take armor damage and the take damage for health, just double checking all that. Yeah, that should work fine. That's subtraction, and it's setting to 0. That's the minimum or least amount you can have will never go less than 0. 0 is always going to be there. There's not like a min value. So yeah, those are the only 2 changes we needed to make. It was on the heal. Oh, also on the stamina. When we're adding, not necessarily when we're using it, but when we're adding stamina, we're going to say max stamina here. Max stamina there. Yeah, so that'll take care of that. Alright, so let's save that. Let's go back to Unity. Let's clear that. Let's click on that. Let's uncheck that. What I'm going to do is spawn. We're going to spawn up in the A location, because there's a lot more that we can pick up there. Since the mushrooms are already spawned in there, we have other items that spawn there, and guns and all that. It's easier to get all that in there because we're in a safe zone where the tigers aren't going to come get us. So we can just collect all the stuff we need in order to test all this, and then we can go out and shoot us some tigers and and get that experience and rank up. You know, we'll try the rank 1 just to see where it's at. We should be able to see that when we let our health go all the way down, when we hit 2 health, the heart should be, because the equivalent of what would be 10 points left, because it'll fill up to 100 with using 2 first aids. So there should be a small portion there. Same with the armor. You should see a slight emptiness at the top of each of those. Then we know it's working. Alright, so let's hit play. And we will cut off the video after we do this test. If this works, you know, we'll stop at this point. What I want to continue to do in the next series, the next stream, we're gonna pick up with finishing off any scripting changes that need to happen for items that we already have or things we have in the game that, you know, we're not actually doing anything with. So we're going to work on that, more scripting. We're getting back to scripting again and working all the bugs out, or adding, of course, new functionality. Yeah, so I'll just keep running around collecting some stuff here. I obviously need to find a gun somewhere. And if you see a gun, let me know. I'll go over there and get it. Just be my eyes for me. Yep, I think I seen one. Did you see it? Alright, so we have our gun. Let's reorganize some of this a little better. Okay, so we got our first aids. I'm going to put these here. And I guess I want to have the red ones. We'll pick up a bunch of those if we find them. So let's gain some experience here, Laurel. Oh, we got 2 tigers on. My aim is way off because I'm only doing like 14 frames a second. It's very difficult here. Okay, so we obviously ranked up. We're at level 1. Let's use 2 first aids now. See what happens here. Number 3. There's 1. There's 2. Still looks like it went to 100%. I can't tell. We're not logging anything to show what our current stamina is at. That's what I would like to show. Could be that it's such a small amount that we can't really... Let's see if it'll let me use another one. That way I'll know. If it lets me use another, I'll know that stamina was increased. Yeah, see, it did let me use it. We just couldn't tell. It was such a small, minimal amount. Alright, so let's... I used... Now, see, I tried to hit 3 again to use another one, it wouldn't let me. So it did work. It just... We couldn't quite tell because... What I'm going to do is get some more health, and we'll just gather some items up top here. There's a lot of health that usually, first aids, I mean, that will spawn here, and a lot of water for the armor. Well, since all these mushrooms are popping up now, they don't spawn as often as I thought they would. Alright, so we're going to just run down here a second. Let's get one of those. So we have 2 first aid kits now. There's a third one. Okay, now let's try to kill about 3 or 4 of these so we can get up to like level 2 or 3. Really 3. Let's shoot for level 3. We have unlimited bullets and we can't die, so why not? Just used a 100% sprint. Now we're at close to okay, we're at level 2 now. There's a tigre. Get this tiger. Oh, that one spawned already. That was fast. I changed the timer to 30 seconds, so they're spawning quicker. All right, let's go over here, and I want to keep shooting until we at least get to level 3. Yeah, I definitely need to get another system. So I was hitting 60 frames on another system I tested, whereas I'm getting like 12 right now. I'm surprised I can even create a game in this system. That's the first upgrade I'm going to do. If I can gather up a little money, get some stuff saved, another $500, I could probably upgrade it to something reasonable. Alright, so we're level 3 now. And we're completely tapped on health. So let's hit 2 of these and see where we're at. Number 3 once, number 3 twice. It's still looking like it's full, but I know I can hit it again. Yeah, see, it used it. Not so sure why. Looks like it's going to 100%. Alright, so let's stop that and real quick, let's look at the UI HUD. I think I know. Health icon. Okay. Yeah, this fill amount is what's being set, and so when it's set to 1, it's 100%. What we need to do is look at how we're representing that on screen. So let's see how we're doing that. And so we have this health bar script that we did before. Let's edit that script real quick and see what we're doing. Yeah, so we're taking health dividing by 100. That's probably not going to work. Because that works fine if, like I said, if it's only 100. So we have to convert that to a number, no, not greater than 100. Yeah, so we're going to need to look at, for example, we're increasing our health to 110, the max health. So, yeah, we're going to have to do a little calculation here, some mathematical calculations. So, let's do this. We'll just say float. Just say v for value, or val, is going to equal let's do that. We're gonna take this out of here. Copy that. We're gonna comment that and leave it. That's what we had before. So this is kind of what we've got right now, but we need to change that because our player health could actually increase. So to come up with a representation of what it actually is, we basically have to divide the health by whatever the current health value is by the max health. Maybe all we really need to do. It may be as simple as that. Do we even have access to that value? Yeah, we should. We're going to get it just the way, same way we're doing the health here. Max health. So let's say we increase our health to 110. And then yeah, that's why it was working before. If we only did like 2, since our first aid kit increases by 50, when we used it twice, that brought it health up to 100. The way our calculation was 100 divided by 100 is equal to 1. And that, of course, is the maximum fill amount on the fill amount property on that. So what we're going to do is divide by max health. So if health is at 100 divided by 110, let's see what kind of number we'll get in the calculator here. 100 divided by 110. That's about right. It's about 0.909. It's going to be about 91% roughly, and that seems more realistic. So that's what we need to adjust. And so we'll do something similar. We've got not only a health bar, we have a the armor stat. We've got this right here. We'll edit that script. I'll say val semicolon. Oops. Let's do this. Float val equals. And this here will be the armor. Divided by max armor. So, same thing. That's all we need to do. Alright, and what else do we have? We've got health stat, armor stat, and our stamina stat, which that's probably going to be okay because we already calculated as a percentage and figuring out what that exact value is and then applying it based on a scale of 100. But so we probably don't need to change anything there. Take the current stamina, although no, that could go up as well. Yeah, let's readjust that. Yeah, it does have to change. So same thing. Float val. Max stamina. So that should take care of that. Let's give it a second to recompile and we'll test it out real quick. Alright, so we're going to maximize that in place so we get a bigger view here. Alright, so yeah, the frames are horrible. We're at 8 frames right now. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll just try to. We'll try the health. All we're gonna do is collect. So if the first aid works, the rest of it should work because it's the same calculation. So let's find at least 3 first aids. I'll also collect these for the armor increase. we got 2 first aids. I'd like to get one more. If we can just find one more. Alright, so there we go. One more. So we also have to, I guess, rank up so we can... Let's get that one last over here. Alright, so let's shoot us some tiger now. This might be difficult with... Alright, perfect. We ranked up. Let's try health. 1, 2. There we go. See, now we had that little... Let's go up to rank 2. We'll be able to see it better. Alright, so let's use 2 health. Get out of the way of this tiger first. Alright, so we're going to save first. Let's hit number 4. I'm going to hit that once, twice. Okay, there we can see we clearly have a little bit left. So it is working now. Let's try the boost now. This does the armor, 4 of them will fill it up. So we should be able to see after using 4 of these. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we got a slight. So it is working now. It's showing a representation of what our... Okay, so we have that corrected. I'll use the last one. Yeah, so that's it. So we got all that fixed. And yeah, so we'll continue on the next stream. We'll continue with some more script changes and things to correct some of the loose ends we've left. I don't want to have too many things not working that are already in there in the game, so we're going to do that, and then continue on. Once we finish the things that we need to, we'll continue on building out the other areas, and you know, get a basic area set up. You know, we're not going to spend a lot of time. Just it'll be, you know, each area will be built on one stream, for example. So we have we zoom out. Here we have, there we go, several areas that we still need to do throughout our map. We've got, this is area B that was done. We've got A done. We're going to probably work on, I want to build a castle that's going to be up in this mountainous area in one of these areas here. And we got our seaside marina kind of thing we'll need to do over here. These other ones I hadn't quite exactly figured out what I want to do with the shape of the areas, like these here, this one here, and this area down here, and actually this volcano area. It's not really like an area we're going to be building out like this huge thing, or, you know, town or area. So it may be like more smaller things, like I said, up on here, this might be where we go to get like new weapons or things like that, like a new shield, or maybe we'll implement the ability to have a shield. Again, I'll have to think about that, but I do know these other 2 areas, what they're going to be. This is going to be a seaside marina type setup. This other one will be a castle in the mountainous area. You'll be able to see it from the distance. So once we have those 4 areas done there, that'll give us enough, a few areas there. With 4 areas to go between, we could start, at that point, work on um, doing some quest stuff and coming up with a storyline and different things and characters, NPC characters that you interact with to give you quests and all that. So we'll work out some kind of thing for that. But anyways, yeah, you got to see some script changes today and what we had to do to modify it and how easy it was to modify it. And obviously there were some glitches we worked through, some bugs, some errors, things that were occurring that we didn't expect to, like the icons, the UI icons for the stamina, the heart, the armor. They're boosting up higher. They're acting like they originally did at the 100% level, but we figured out what the issues were and worked through those, and so you get to see the reality of this again when you're scripting. There's always testing going on, and you have to test everything and look at everything and find out why it's not working, and there's always a reason why. It's usually we call a coding bug or a bug in the code. But you fix those errors and you test again, and when you have it working right, you move on. So thanks again for stopping out, though. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, and definitely post any comments. I'd like to get some feedback on the videos. If y'all like them, give me a thumbs up. If you dislike it, thumbs down. Again, this is not like a formal training class. Keep that in mind. This is me learning Unity and learning some things, and as I learn that, you get to see how it's done, and if you're someone that's never done this before, start at video 1 that I had, and you'll see where I was at there and where we're at now and how things kind of evolved and got to where it was. It is a long process, but I think we're starting to get to a point where we're making some things happen, and before you know it, we'll have something really functional here that will be playable and maybe shareable with other people that want to test it and play it. So anyways, y'all have a good night. I'm gonna call it. It is late anyways. It's 11:21 p.m. my time, and so I went 30 minutes over. But anyways, y'all have a good night. See you next time.